You ever have one of those neighbors, the kind who thinks every inch of your property somehow belongs to them? Yeah, that's my neighbor, Karen. But this time, it wasn't her who crossed the line. It was her daughter, who thought my driveway was her personal parking spot. She laughed when I asked her to move. Her mom told me to just wait. So I did what any patient man would do. I started my tractor. And let's just say, by the time I was done, that shiny white SUV wasn't in my driveway anymore. It was in the ditch. And that's when everything exploded. I was halfway through hauling mulch that morning, sun beating down, air thick with that smell of freshly cut grass, when I heard it. The sound of tires crunching on gravel. Slow, heavy, confident. I turned, wiping the sweat from my forehead, and there it was. A shiny white luxury SUV, big, spotless, and parked dead center in my driveway. Blocking everything. My truck, my trailer, even the path I needed to pull the tractor through. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery gone wrong. But then I saw the license plate frame, Whitfield family, HOA proud. And right there, I knew exactly what kind of day I was about to have. Karen Whitfield. My neighbor. The woman who treated every inch of this neighborhood like it was her personal kingdom. But it wasn't her behind the wheel this time, it was her daughter, Ashley. 18 years old. Blonde ponytail. Designer sunglasses. Sitting in the driver's seat with her phone in her hand, blasting music like she owned the world. I walked over, trying to keep my voice calm. Hey, you need to move that. I've got a delivery coming. She didn't even glance up, just said, Mom said I can park here for a bit. A bit. I checked my watch. Fine, I'd give her 15 minutes. Maybe she'd come to her senses. But 30 minutes later, she was still there. Laughing on FaceTime, playing with her hair, not a care in the world. So I marched up to Karen's front porch, knocked on the door, and waited. The blinds shifted, and then the door cracked open. Karen stood there in her robe, fake smile plastered on her face like always. She's just getting ready for her senior pictures, Tom, she said, waving her hand like I was a fly buzzing too close. You can wait a little. Then, click, she shut the door right in my face. I stood there for a second, jaw tight, pulse pounding. This wasn't about parking anymore. This was about respect. About control. So I turned around, walked back to the barn, and climbed up onto my tractor. As the engine growled to life, I caught a glimpse of Ashley through the windshield, her smile fading fast. Because she finally realized. I wasn't asking anymore. The roar of that tractor echoed across the whole street, deep, steady, and angry, like thunder rolling through the hills. Dust lifted off the ground as I eased it forward, my hands tight on the wheel, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about boundaries, about how many times this family had disrespected them. The driveway was mine. Paid for with my hands, my sweat, my years. And I wasn't about to let an 18-year-old girl treat it like a parking lot. Ashley looked up from her phone, eyes wide. Her window rolled down just a few inches. "What are you doing?" she yelled, voice shaking between panic and disbelief. I didn't say a word. Just kept creeping closer, slow, deliberate, until the tractor's metal grille was a few inches from the SUV's bumper. The hum of the engine vibrated through the air. I could see my reflection in her tinted glass, calm but unshaken. That's when Karen came bursting out of her house, screaming at the top of her lungs. "Thomas, you stop that right now. That's a $70,000 vehicle." Her robe flapped in the wind. Her slippers kicked up gravel. But I didn't stop. I inched forward another foot, the sound of tires crunching, metal groaning against the slope. Ashley screamed, fumbling with her seatbelt, her phone dropping somewhere under the seat. The SUV began to roll backward, slow at first, then faster as the front tires lost grip on the gravel edge. It wasn't violent, just physics. The back end slid into the shallow ditch beside my fence, the rear bumper settling with a hollow thud. I stopped the tractor, cut the engine, and stepped down. Silence fell over everything. No music, no shouting, just the wind cutting through the trees. Karen's jaw hung open. Ashley sat frozen inside the tilted car, eyes wet with tears, too shocked to move. I wiped my hands on my jeans, looked straight at Karen, and said calmly, "You blocked my property. Now it's clear." She blinked, speechless for once in her life. Then, slowly, her face twisted into that same smirk I'd seen 100 times before. The one that said, "You're going to regret this." And when she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, I knew. She was already calling the cops. By the time the police cruiser pulled up, the sun had already climbed high over the trees. Red and blue lights flashed across my barn wall, reflecting off the dented bumper of that white SUV still half sunk in the ditch. Karen was already in full performance mode, pacing back and forth, waving her arms, tears streaming like a bad stage play. "Officer! He tried to kill my daughter with that machine!" she cried, pointing toward my tractor like it was a loaded weapon. Ashley sat on the curb, mascara running down her cheeks, pretending to sob into her hands. The whole thing looked ridiculous, like a bad reality show filmed in my front yard. The officer stepped out, calm and steady. "All right, let's start from the top. Who called this in?" Karen shot her hand up dramatically. "Me. He went crazy. He attacked my daughter's car, pushed it into that ditch." The officer glanced over at me, eyebrows slightly raised. "Sir, that true?" I crossed my arms, steady as a stone. "No, officer. Her daughter parked on my property. I asked her to move 3 times. She refused. So, I cleared my driveway." Karen cut in immediately, her voice sharp. "That's a lie. This driveway's part of the community property. We have HOA rights here." The officer turned, puzzled. "Ma'am, this driveway clearly connects to his house, not yours." But Karen wasn't backing down. In the HOA charter, all driveways are shared. He can't just act like a vigilante farmer. I didn't even flinch. I walked to my mailbox, pulled out a laminated paper, and handed it over. It was the official court ruling, signed and stamped just a few months ago, the one where she lost her case trying to fine me for repainting my barn. The ruling clearly said, Lot 12, including the driveway, belongs solely to Thomas Reed. The officer scanned it, then looked right at Karen. "Ma'am, this isn't shared property. It's his. Your daughter was trespassing." Her fake tears stopped instantly. "Trespassing? She's just a teenager." The officer gave a dry chuckle. "A teenager driving a $70,000 SUV? She's old enough to know better." Karen's face twisted, rage, embarrassment, disbelief all mixing at once. But just when I thought it was over, she leaned close to Ashley and whispered something. Ashley's eyes lit up, and that's when I realized the real game had just started. That night, I thought it was finally over. The SUV had been towed from the ditch, the officer had left, and I figured Karen would be too embarrassed to ever bring it up again. But I underestimated her, and her daughter. Just before midnight, my phone started buzzing. Over and over. Neighbors texting me links. Notifications piling up. And when I opened one of them, my stomach dropped. Karen had gone viral. She'd posted a dramatic video online, her and Ashley sitting in their spotless living room, fake tears streaming, dramatic music playing in the background. The title read, "Crazy Farmer Attacks My Daughter's Car with a Tractor, HOA Horror Story." And there I was, in the background, from a shaky zoomed-in clip, pushing the SUV with my tractor. No context. No sound. Just me looking like a lunatic. Comments flooded in from strangers calling me dangerous, unhinged, entitled. Someone even commented, "That old man needs to be arrested." I clenched my jaw, my pulse thudding in my ears. For a second, I almost called her. Almost shouted into that phone. But then I remembered, I didn't need to. Because my property had its own storyteller. A silent witness with perfect memory. My security cameras. I spent the next morning downloading every clip, from the moment Ashley pulled in, to me asking politely, to Karen slamming the door in my face. No shouting. No aggression. Just proof. When the same officer returned for a follow-up, I invited him into my workshop. He watched the footage quietly, arms crossed, eyes narrowing with every frame. Then he nodded slowly. "You mind if I take a copy? False reporting's a serious issue, sir." By the afternoon, the tables turned fast. Karen's posts started disappearing from platforms one by one. But mine, the full story, the real footage, hit the internet right after. No commentary, no edits, just truth. Within hours, the neighborhood Facebook group was flooded with reactions. People who'd once sided with her were now furious. Even members of the HOA board started asking questions. That night, as I sat on my porch watching the sun go down, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing, but this time every message said the same thing. Tom, you were right. And I knew, the truth had finally found its audience. By sunrise, it felt like the whole neighborhood had turned upside down. Karen's video, the one meant to humiliate me, had completely backfired. Every neighbor had seen the truth, shared my footage, and called her out. The comments were brutal. You lied. You faked being a victim. You tried to ruin a good man's name. Her reputation, the one she guarded like a crown, was gone overnight. Even the HOA board, the same people she'd manipulated for years, called for an emergency meeting. By noon, word spread fast. Karen Whitfield had been voted out as HOA president. Ashley didn't escape either. Her friends at school had seen the clips, the memes, the hashtags. One of them even posted a video mocking her, when your mom says park anywhere, and the farmer parks you. The SUV, her pride and joy, sat at the impound lot, front bumper cracked, wheels caked with mud. The same neighbors who once waved at Karen now crossed the street to avoid her. For the first time since she moved in, the queen of the cul-de-sac was completely silent. I didn't celebrate, didn't brag, didn't post, didn't even mention it. I just kept doing what I always did, fixing my fence, mowing my grass, keeping to myself. And maybe that silence hit her harder than any words ever could. Because 3 days later, I saw her walking across my yard. No phone. No smirk. Just a tired woman holding an envelope. Tom, she said softly, eyes down. I went too far. Her voice trembled, small, fragile, like the sound of guilt finally catching up. She offered me the envelope, a check for the ditch repairs. I'll pay for the damage, she whispered. And, I'm sorry. I took it, nodded once. Apologies accepted, I said quietly. But next time, just teach your daughter something I wish more people knew. Respect doesn't cost a dime. Her eyes glistened. She nodded, turned, and walked away. That night, I stood by the fence, watching the sun melt into gold over the field. And I realized something simple, powerful even. You don't always win by shouting or fighting back. Sometimes, you win by standing still, and letting the truth speak louder than pride ever could. So yeah, Karen and her daughter learned the hard way. You can't bully your neighbors forever. They thought they could park wherever they wanted, control whoever they wanted. But when the law finally stepped in, the truth hit harder than my tractor ever could. Now, they pass by my house without a word, without a glance. And honestly, peace never sounded so good. Because sometimes, silence, that's the sweetest kind of victory.